And we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about Tyreek Hill facing his former team on Sunday. So obviously, this game is going to be played in Germany. And to be honest, I kind of wish this game was being played in the States just because of how big it is. But you know what? The other thing you got to look at, too, is we're finally giving, well, I shouldn't say finally, but we are giving, the fans overseas a game that they deserve, honestly, because you got two of the best teams in terms of record, record-wise. Well, some of the best teams in the NFL going at it. You got the Dolphins and their high-powered offense, and you got arguably the best quarterback in the game right now in Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champs. I mean, it should be a good game. It should be a really good game. And obviously, Tyreek Hill will be playing his former team for the first time since he was traded. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and, how he does against his team. I'm going to say he gets a touchdown in this game, but we'll see. Obviously, him going up against his team and obviously Andy Reid and the Chiefs game planning for Tyreek Hill, it's going to be interesting what happens there. That's 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So, I obviously will be locked into that game. Got a lot of fantasy implications with that. Tyreek Hill, I have in a few leagues. Tua, I have in a league. Pacheco, there's a few guys that I'm going to be, watching, making sure they do good for my team on Sunday. But with this game now, so you got four teams right now in the AFC that are 6-2. So you got these two teams, you got the Ravens, and you got the Jags. And I've talked about numerous times over the course of the last week or so. Well, a little less than that. Really, this whole week, that if one of these teams loses, and then you got the Jags are on a bye this week, but you could find yourself being like the third seed with a loss, because if you got the team that beat you, then you got the Ravens if they win, then all of a sudden, because everybody's tied right now for the best record in the AFC, and I know they were talking about it like what team, when you look at them, in terms of it being a bigger game, is it a bigger game for the Chiefs or the Dolphins? And I don't know why I had such a hard time trying to say that, but I mean, when you look at it, this is a bigger game for the Dolphins because they've been getting some criticism lately because of the fact that when you look at their record, 6-2, you're like, they're a good, very good team. But you look at the teams that they've beaten this year. They've beaten the Patriots twice. They've beaten the Giants, the Panthers. They blew out the Broncos. They scored 70 points against them. You look at the level of competition that they've beaten, and that's putting the team into question. Now, I still think this is a good team, and I think it's going to come down to the last game of the regular season when it comes to the division between them and the Bills. Right now, they're a game up on the Bills. But, teams that they've played on the road, they lost, 48-20 to the Bills, and then you lose 31-17 to the Eagles a couple weeks ago. Now, that game was tied at one point. And even when you go back to the Bills and the Dolphins, I mean, that game was, I think it was 14-14, and then after that, the Dolphins, couldn't keep up, and the Bills just kept scoring on them, and that was pretty much it. So, this is a big game for them. And you also got to look at it with the Chiefs. I mean, they're coming off of a bad loss. And, they definitely want to get back on the right track here. I think what's beneficial for the Dolphins is that this is going to be a neutral field, and this game's not being played in Arrowhead. Because if this game was being played in Arrowhead, you're definitely going to favor the Chiefs. Even though I kind of still favor them a little bit. But we'll save that for the pick segment tomorrow. But I think this is a bigger game for the Dolphins because you got to go out there and you got to prove to people, hey, we could beat a good team. I still think they are a good team just because they have, I know that people could look at them as and call them frauds, but I don't want to I don't look at them as a fraud. But I do get it. But you got to look at the star power on this team. They're dealing with injuries right now. You get Achane back in the backfield to go along with Mostert. He's going to be back, I think, after the bye week. And then, of course, you have Tyreek Hill, who's, everybody talks about him being the best receiver in the league, at least for this year. He's been unbelievable. And then you got Jalen Waddle, who's a solid number 2. And, some other guys as well, Cedric Wilson and Chosen Anderson, right? Is it Robbie Chosen? No, Robbie Chosen, I think it is now. They got a lot of track stars on this team. Now, obviously, Robbie Chosen isn't, an elite wide receiver, but I'm just saying in terms of like speed, you got those guys, Mostert, HN, when he comes back. There's speed everywhere on this offense. They got playmakers everywhere, and I think it's been very beneficial for Tua, and Tua gets the ball to these guys, and Tua gives the team the best chance to win out of the quarterbacks. Skylar Thompson, I think he's still on the team, right? Because I know, again, there's still Tua criticism out there as well, and I get it. I don't view Tua as an elite quarterback. I think he's kind of in like that second, third tier of quarterbacks. But, you got to surround these guys with talent, and that's exactly what the Dolphins did. And, thankfully he's been healthy this year because, last year concussions were an issue. And, thankfully, like I just said, that hasn't been a problem. But you know what? He gets the ball where it needs to be. And right now the Dolphins are 6-2. And this is a big game for them. I think this is bigger for them than the Chiefs because I know the Chiefs are going to be okay. I know that they're struggling on offense right now. They didn't go out and add another wide receiver. So what they have moving forward is what they're going to have. But I think, when the money's on the table, when all the chips are on the table, they're going to show up. They are. Because, we could talk about their struggles on offense, but I just feel like, in general, like, that was just a team loss. You can't really blame that on one guy. Guys are fumbling. They were getting things going on offense. It's just they couldn't cash in. Something would happen. You got Sky Moore dropping a touchdown. I feel like ultimately the Chiefs are going to figure it out. I'm not worried about them. I'm not. But yeah, there's definitely. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some concern there. There definitely is, but I don't think it's like you want to jump to any conclusions and write them off. But, listen, it's hard to repeat in the NFL. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to repeat as Super Bowl champs, but I think they're going to be, when it's all said and done, they're going to be one of the final 4 teams, I think. But I think for the Dolphins, you win this game, then that at least gets a monkey off your back, and people could say, all right, well, you beat a good team. You beat a good team. And, last year, listen, they went on the road against the Ravens. They were getting blown out. Nobody really gave them a chance for that game, and I think Tua threw like 6 touchdown passes in that game. They came back and won that game. So it's not like they haven't gone on the road and beaten a good team. Ever. But you would like to see, and they did, even last year, late in the year against Buffalo, in Buffalo. That was when it was cold in Buffalo. This year was, we were in, we were in late September, beginning of October weather, and they got blown out. But in the snow against Buffalo, they could have won that game. So, but again, obviously that was last year. We're talking about this year now. But listen, they almost beat Buffalo in the playoff game with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. So I think the Dolphins haven't beaten one of these elite teams, but you know what? Let's see what they do on Sunday. I think it's a bigger game for them. And listen, Tyreek Hill, I think, should have a good game. I think he's going to want to stick it to his former team. He actually did talk about the contract issues with the Chiefs, and he went over the situation. And it came down to either the Jets or the Dolphins. Just imagine if he went to the Jets. Because I have a lot of friends that are Jet fans. They would have been like, I don't even know. They just like they would have been so happy if that was the case. But Dolphins swooped in, and they were able to get him. So, and listen, I think the Chiefs definitely missed Tyreek Hill, but you know what? They got their ring without him last year. So, yeah, they miss him, but they were able to, win a championship without him. So it's, if they could do that, they'll figure it out. Because they have most of the guys from last year's team. I mean, the only subtraction really is Juju Smith-Schuster. That's it. Unless I'm missing somebody else. But yeah, like Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Valdez-Scantling, Justin Watson. Those guys were all on the team last year. McCole Hardman. I don't remember. Did he play in the Super Bowl? Because he was injured. Maybe he didn't. Because he didn't do anything in the Super Bowl. So maybe he did miss the Super Bowl. But he was on the 2019 team. I know that. I mean, listen, there's some concern with the Chiefs, but I think they'll be fine. The Dolphins, it's a statement game for you. It is. And speaking of statement games, when we go into our next segment, after we come back from our second break, we'll talk about it being a statement game for the Dallas Cowboys, depending on what they do on Sunday. But before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys again to become part of the show, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. It makes it more interactive. It's a great way to get yourself, out there with your comment, whatever you have for me. I greatly appreciate it. And that's really what I look forward to, is interacting with you guys, the viewers, and responding to your comments, you guys telling me things. Because obviously, for me, I'm not going to say I'm going to sit up here and say I know everything, and I don't. And there might be some things, some insight that you guys could give me from a different perspective that I might, not realize. And that's what it's all about. So, make sure to do that. Again, it's on the ticker below, streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. So, yeah, with that, we are going to take our second break of the show. And then when we come back, we are going to talk about the Cowboys-Eagles game and why it's a statement game for the Cowboys. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.